now.
Awesome. Well, welcome and thank you for joining us today. We have Allie Bradley, who's our admissions specialist from Columbus State, here with us today to talk a little bit about the application. She's going to share some screenshots, as my understanding as well, and help walk you through maybe what some of the hiccups would be on your Columbus State application and provide any other helpful insight. So thank you, Allie, for being with us, and I'm going to turn it over to you.
Greetings and salutations. Thank you. Let's go ahead and get things started. And my mouse doesn't want to seem to find the arrow. There we go. So the application, usually 20 minutes is like honestly the max unless you're having some technical difficulties. But with that being said, I do like to share, if possible, try to avoid iCloud as well as any school emails, because of it sometimes will get filtered out and you won't receive the emails from Columbus State. With Gmail is perfectly fine to use. However, I will notate that it sometimes can go into your spam folder. Along with that, I do want to mention that if you have ever applied to take College Credit Plus, you do not need to reapply to Columbus State. Again, if you ever attended and took College Credit Plus with Columbus State, you do not need to reapply to the college. So with that being said, go ahead and open up your another browser and go to cscc.edu. And please use the chat if I am not taking enough time for you to get to the location that we're at. Just for the sake of time, I will try to assist as much as possible. However, if we are lingering a little too long, I may recommend you connect with your support network, who is also in on the session, to add to the conversation and possibly chat with you one-on-one. So once you are at cscc.edu, you'll click that burgundy apply button. Julian, I'm not sure what you're referencing as far as a process. Are you saying the application? Okay, transitioning from CCP. So I haven't gotten there yet. Great question. Great question. So as far as CCP goes, if you are a CCP student, essentially all you have to do is send an email to CCP Advising with your intended major. Again, that is CCP Advising at cscc.edu. Put it in the chat for you. So you just include, hey, this is my name, I attended, and this is what I hope to do. And then from there, they will update in the system upon your graduation, because if they can't update it until you've graduated, or else it'll kind of mess with the record in regards to financial aid and things of that nature. So once you have graduated, it'll update, but you're still able to send that email prior to graduation. And then from there, you will just continue on in regards to attending an orientation to go over courses. Great question. So once we've gotten to that apply button, you then will see this screen and you'll want to click standard application. From there, you want to pay attention to this slide especially. You'll want to start with okay, Julian will talk about financially a little further in the conversation. Thank you. So on this slide, you will want to pay attention to the section that is numbered 1. I don't know why they put it there, because I mean we read from left to right, but who knows? So from there, you want to complete all this information. With that being said, please, 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 please create a password that you are going to remember. You would be surprised how many folks forget once they hit create account and it's time to verify. Once you have hit create account, you're going to wait 5 to 10 minutes to receive a verification. And I say 5 to 10, but it's usually a little bit quicker than that. Again, if you're using Gmail, you'll want to check your spam. And then once you receive that verification, you'll be able to sign in on section 3. Don't try to sign in anytime before that. So at this time, there will be either awkward pause. I don't have jokes for you during this time. But if there are any other questions that we have while we're waiting for folks to complete this process and get their verification email, and if we get to about 5 minutes or so and you haven't received it, please feel free to either put it in the chat publicly or message myself privately with your name and your date of birth, and I will try to get you verified on my end if we don't get it processed in 5 minutes. While folks are waiting on that, I believe we had a question about financial aid. You can go ahead and throw that in the chat, or if you're comfortable unmuting, you can do that as well. I'm a little relaxed. Awkward silence, awkward silence.
Got a question in the chat. Sounds like maybe some other family members have had trouble with the financial aid process, but not really getting a result from that. Is there someone that who would be the best person to talk to at Columbus State if they have questions about financial aid moving forward?
So honestly, really any of our financial aid advisors, the nice thing is that we also have a chat going on, so you can get some instant gratification by connecting with an advisor on the chat, and I'll have a slide with that contact information at the end. But if you've already got an application in the system and you've already completed your FAFSA, that'll be really beneficial because then they have some numbers and an account to look at to see if they think there might be some hiccups for you possibly, or if everything looks like you're in tip-top shape, it'll give them an idea of that.
And then I know there are a few students and families on the call, but for anyone that's listening to the recording, if they're having trouble getting logged in or verifying their account, is that something they can email you about, or who do they contact?
So if they're working on it currently, they can go ahead and message me in the chat their first name and their date of birth. If they are watching the recording, to get a quicker turnaround response, I would say just send it to the admissions email, which is just admissions@cscc.edu. And they can also CC me that way. If I get to it first, I can process it. But with more folks having access to it, that admissions one might be a little bit quicker on the turnaround, or the admissions chat as well. That would be another option.
See, now if I go ahead and message your date of birth to Allie Bradley. He's saying that he's having trouble getting the verification and it's not in his spam.
All right, anyone else working on it and haven't gotten the verification email just yet?
As I recall, I think the families on the call either have the application already started or CCP or have already asked for some help. So I think
Awesome. All
that's
right.
going to be everybody.
Give me just a few seconds and we will be able to get you verified, Malachi. Any other questions from folks while I am working on verifying that for him?
Oh, sorry, we've got a hand raised, so I'm going to do this. All right, you should be good to speak.
I'm sorry, this is Jean Winters again. I should know how to do this chat, but I don't. I had a very specific question as long as we're just waiting. On the application, there was a spot that said, do they go by previous names? And my son was adopted and he did have a name in his own country. And I readopted him here and now he has my name. Do I need to go into any detail with that?
If there's any documentation while your son was here, then yes, you can put that. It's mainly sometimes folks will get married, get divorced, or
Okay.
get names that align with their pronouns, assortment of things. So with that, you have folks who notate that. But if your son didn't have record of his current name, or I'm sorry, his previous name, got a little tongue tied there, his previous name prior to getting here, then no, you should be fine.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, and I believe everyone is verified and in. So from there, you can go on to, you should be able to get to this next slide here. Sometimes when you verify, it'll automatically take you here. Sometimes you actually have to sign in once you get the verification and it'll take you here. And from there, you will see that there is a panel on the right-hand side that gives you each section that you'll just click through. This is essentially just a welcome page. From there, I like to touch on a couple of things. So if you were assigned male at birth and you were 18 years or older, you will want to notate that you are 18 years or older, and you will put down that you have a selective service number or you are registering for a selective service number. With that being said, sometimes they're already produced, the number's already produced for the individual, even though they never registered for it. And sometimes students have to actually register for them. So a lot of times students are like, well, what does this mean? How does this impact me? The main impact is that you will be charged out-of-state tuition if you don't complete this. So that's the main thing that I like to make sure to tell folks, is that if they do not complete it, then they will be charged a surplus amount than what they would normally pay. With that being said, if you don't have it because you haven't turned 18, but by the time school starts, you will have turned 18. At that time, you just want to make sure that you have a chance to register and get that number. Any questions about that at all? I like to check in where I can. All right. So then another slide that we happen to kind of get some hiccups with is when we're selecting schools and we're adding them in. Sometimes I'm not gonna lie, it's more than sometimes, a lot of times, it can be quite temperamental when trying to put in the schools. What I've noticed is that the slower you type your school, the better off you'll be as far as it producing your school and it populating and allowing you to select it. Additionally, you may find that if you have an error and you're like, hey, I want to edit it, you will most likely have to remove the entry and start over, because again, it can be very temperamental. But again, you want to wait till it drops down and click it. as far as the school goes. And that is essentially for any of the schools. I just use the high school one because that's the most common one. But if you are attending a career center, or if you attended a college through CCP at another institution, when you're adding those, same thing. Can be temperamental, type slow, and that's usually how it's best to produce that school. So if you're applying now, the question, just so everyone is aware, was if I am turning 18 this summer. So you would answer the selective service number as I'm not 18 yet. However, when you are 18, you would apply for a selective service number, and then you would just reach out to Columbus State. And you could do that very easily just by giving our general line phone call and giving them the selective service number. Any questions on this slide at all? All right, as far as major goes, I really like to make sure to have a conversation about the major for two reasons. The one being that you are able to notate that you are undecided because of being frank with you, if you will. You know, it can change. And sometimes students realize that what they want to do, but they don't realize that what the path is to get to it, or they don't realize that there could be multiple paths to get to that end goal. So sometimes it's better if they put undecided because they know what they want to do as, air quotes, an adult. I still haven't mastered being an adult, so you know, that's why we do air quotes. So it is perfectly fine if you are putting undecided. With that in mind, I do want to share that being undecided, you would not qualify for financial aid. So between the time of your application and you sitting in your class, taking your courses, or typing away at your classes if it were a virtual space, there are ample of conversations that you would have with folks going over what would be a good fit for you and helping you navigate what major it is that might be best for you. So I like to make sure that folks are aware. Yes, you can apply as undecided. I have folks who think, hey, I must know absolutely what I have to do or else I can't apply, and that's not the case. You certainly can start the process, because just because you're unsure of your specific major does not mean that you can't start getting the application, figuring out what scholarships are available, figuring out what financial aid will look like, things of that nature, just getting the process done. So I always like to touch in on that part of the conversation. And then from there, most of the questions are pretty much straightforward. With that being said, you just click the box, give your signature, which is just you typing your name, and then today's date, and then you hit submit. From there, kind of like to go over like, hey, what do the follow-up steps look like? So usually 1 to 3 business days, you'll get an email that says, hey, these are my next steps. What am I supposed to do? You also get some login information, how to access your Columbus State email, as well as Cougar Web. Cougar Web is essentially like whatever platform you're like using for your homework and things of that nature. That's where all your emails will come to, is through the Columbus State email. So once you've applied, they'll start going to the Columbus State email. So after you've gotten the process done, you want to make sure that you're checking your Columbus State email, as well as submitting documentation like test scores and transcripts, both high school as well as if you have any college courses under your belt, whether that is from another institution doing CCP, or that is something like you have AP, IB courses that you want to get credit for. I always tell folks, please feel free to screenshot this or use their phone to take a picture of it, because there's a lot of contact information that can be very beneficial for you. So I am the Whetstone representative, so I put myself first. But along with that, I know on the call we had, hey, who should I connect with if I need assistance? And I'd mentioned the admissions email can really be beneficial in regards to a quicker turnaround because there are more folks in that email. So you've got that, but you also got chat. So if you want some instant gratification on a question, that chat can really be beneficial. And I thought financial aid was on here. I must have been thinking about another slide. My apologies. I'm a flawed individual. But for financial aid, they also have a online chat as well. And I will put in our chat the financial aid email and phone number for you. For folks who can't see the chat, I will verbalize that and say that the financial aid email is finaid, FINAID @cscc.edu. And the phone number is 614-287-5353. Again, those are the contact resources if you're looking for financial to connect with financial aid. They too have an online link. I believe it's the same, cscc.edu/financial aid, if I remember correctly. And I like to tell folks, even if you don't think that your question falls directly with admissions or financial aid, please feel free to reach out, because there are other offices that have links as well. So we might be able to connect you with that person to get that instant gratification. So I know that was rather quick. And like I said, I'm pretty relaxed and I like to, keep the conversation going. So please feel free to unmute yourself if you see fit, or open the chat and share any questions or concerns, whether it's directly with what we went over, or if you have additional concerns that you want to see if I'm able to assist you in navigating those questions. And again, support network, if you have questions that you think like, hey, I got folks on the call, they're probably not going to ask this question, so I might be able to word it in a more general sense, feel free to do so.
Yeah, great. Thanks so much, Ali. This is so helpful. And I'm looking forward to sharing the video too with a lot of our students. I just want to add 2 steps that we need on our end at Whetstone to make sure that everything is done for us. Is one, you need to put in a transcript request into your Naviance list. If you're in this meeting right now, you can just shoot me a private message if you want, and I'll make sure it's on your Naviance list and the request is on there for you. It's like a little freebie. Thanks for being here. If you are watching the recording, we do have a video of how to put in that request. That's in the Google Classroom. And then the other thing that everyone needs to do is, once you get that acceptance or that admission email, once you're done, you just go ahead and click forward and send it to your counselor. We just have to keep track of that stuff for you. And then, Ali, I know we get a lot of questions each year about students who might have different types of like immigration status. Can you say a little bit about how the application is a little bit different for students that might have a green card?
Certainly. So it is typically just sending in whether they have a physical permanent resident card, or if they have documentation essentially saying that it'll formally be processed at a certain date. They can send that over to our international office, and that email would be iss@cscc.edu. I will go ahead and drop that in there as well for you. All right, and I see we've got some combo on here as well. And before I dive into the other conversations, additionally, if we have folks who are international or undocumented, they will go through international student services as well. The email for that one would just be istudent@cscc.edu.
Perfect. Let's see. So I've got one other question, but I can hold on to that because I know there's some questions in the chat. One person is asking, they don't have their social security number on them right now, but they can fill out the rest of it and hit save, and then just pop back in and finish filling that part out before they hit submit, right?
Yes, absolutely. Go ahead and finish what you can and save it. Just make sure you remember your password. And I see we got one asking about IEP. We certainly have things in place for folks who have IEP or 504s. Columbus State actually is a award-winning institution in regards to our disability services, whether it is visible or invisible. There are accommodations in place. I even got folks who have kind of been nervous in the virtual aspect. They're like, well, I'm used to some of these accommodations. And then after having a chance to talk to our disability services, they're like, oh, okay, well, this doesn't sound bad, knowing that these accommodations are in place. So certainly an assortment of options that route. There is an intake process. It's a little different with this being virtual now, but connecting with disability services, they do have a portion where you connect with someone and you have a chance to go over, hey, these are the accommodations that we are accustomed to. This is where we're needing to meet at. And then once the student is taking courses, they'll be assigned a advocate who will kind of assist them in navigating coursework in regards to making sure they're utilizing whatever accommodations they may have, as well as also kind of giving them insight on some air quotes user-friendly courses that might be best for their accommodations. You know, not to say that a professor isn't going to accommodate them, but, you know, just being aware, like, oh, well, for this math course, this individual students seem to really work well with this person because of how they teach and according to their accommodations. So just being cognizant of teaching styles and how those meet with one's accommodations. So having someone who kind of gives you that inside scoop, I think, is really beneficial. So we have folks in place who can assist with that.
Yeah, and if you do have an IEP, your transition coordinator, so either Ms. Hooper or Ms. Devendra, they can help you get the IEP information to Columbus State. And then just keep in mind, you know, like Ali said, that it's a conversation that happens with Columbus State, that the family has with Columbus State. It's not necessarily like, this is what I had in high school, so this is what I'm going to have in college. It's talking about what the best accommodations are for you based on what your needs are. And then one other common misconception that we hear from families is that, you know, do you have to have a 504 and IEP to get accommodations? And the answer is no, but you do need to provide some sort of documentation in another way then. But it's not, you know, exclusive to people who had plans in high school.
Absolutely. And a lot of times folks think that a lot of times, you know, like I mentioned, visible and invisible. Like sometimes it's things that you don't even think about. Like I had a student I supervised who she had to have back surgery. She was 22, so she wasn't anticipating to have back surgery in the middle of her semester. However, she still didn't want to fall behind. So she had to connect with them to go over, hey, this is when I have to have my surgery. How can we make accommodations for my coursework? So some of her coursework she was able to receive prior to so that she didn't fall behind. And then upon her recovery, she was able to make up the work in a timely manner and still be on track for her courses. So sometimes it's things that you never would have thought, oh, hey, I have to get this worked out. So it's a good office to be familiar with because if you don't know when or how you may need it. What other questions do we have or hot topics that we think we might want to cover?
And I think that this Zoom room, okay, I think, yeah, you can unmute yourself. You should be able to unmute yourself if you have a question, or if you're having trouble unmuting, you can raise your hand and I can unmute you, or you can put things in the chat.
I just wanted to say thank you, Ali, for taking time today to be with us. I know this is always so helpful, and hopefully there are students that will be able to watch this too that weren't able to join us today.
Glad to be here. Glad to be here.
All right, well, unless you have any individual questions for Ali, we'll stay on for a few minutes. But otherwise, you're free to go. Thank you so much for joining us, to those that were able to.
Yes, thank you, everyone. Great questions.